Everyone knows Papa H sure can cook, but did you also know that he could sew? Well, turns out he can. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, these are my assorted thoughts from the June 24th, 2024 WWE RAW. Welcome to Silo Voice Wrestling on YouTube and the Silo Voice Wrestling podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jason C. McLean. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and of course, ring that bell for notifications for all my wrestling hot takes, cold takes, simmering takes, predictions, reviews of PLEs, and assorted thoughts on Raw and SmackDown. I'm recording this on June the 28th, just before SmackDown, in case you're wondering. And what was I talking about? Sewing. Well, I'm talking about the three main threads that Triple H wove or sewed, throughout this episode of Raw. The first one started at the very beginning with The Miz as Michael Cole's partner on commentary. He was, of course, replacing Pat McAfee, and we found out later that McAfee's father-in-law had sadly passed away between the live airing of his own show, where he had Triple H and Michael Cole as guests, and the beginning of Raw. Michael Cole, of course, said, don't read too much into it at the beginning, not announcing the reason, so that we didn't think it was storyline, because there was some speculation that it might have had something to do with the Wyatt 6, and it was a storyline choice. The simple fact that this wasn't planned means that the very start of this thread, a part of this thread that was very integral to it, wasn't even planned. So that's very interesting. Some great sewing right there. The thread continued, first in the Judgment Day clubhouse, where they found out Liv Morgan had got them a bunch of gifts. And then as Liv Morgan headed to the ring, she called out Dirty Dominic Mysterio, but Zelina Vega came out first. Eventually, Dominic joined her, and Zelina even inadvertently got the crowd chanting sloppy seconds, which was great. Zelina and Liv got into a fight. Rey Mysterio joined in. Dominic joined in. The end result is a women's championship match for next week with Liv defending against Zelina. But the real result, or the continuation of this thread, is how Liv thought Dom was now her hero, which led to a bit backstage with R-Truth. You don't usually see these two interact, but this is where the two smaller threads became one of the larger threads. It was funny. There was the Tom and Nick Mysterio reference. I like the interplay, but ultimately Liv ended up tricking the beloved babyface into giving Judgment Day, Finn Balor, and JD McDonough a World Tag Team Championship match. As Miz left commentary frantically, going to look for Truth to stop the match from happening. Damian Priest wanders into the Judgment Day clubhouse and runs into Liv, and then sees she was talking to Finn Balor. There's, of course, a comment as to how all this looks sketchy, but ultimately it wove this thread into the World Heavyweight Championship picture. Damian Priest was out there. Seth Rollins came out to join him. Their side bet that if Priest loses, he has to leave the Judgment Day, and his response to that leads me to believe that reinforces my belief that he's definitely going to turn babyface and leave the rest of the group, and we're going to see a reason why a little bit later along the same thread. The pair was, of course, joined by Gunther, and I love this part. I love the fact that Gunther can just sit back, watch this happen, come out, wearing a suit, just tell both of them, I'm looking forward to your match, may the best man win, but whoever wins is going to lose to me. I love this new sort of Gunther from the sidelines. Not as much as his Intercontinental title reign, but this is a really funny place for Gunther to be in, because I think we all know he's going to win. But back to the main thread, we of course had the World Tag Team Championship match between Awesome Truth, The Miz and R-Truth, versus Judgment Day's Finn Balor and JD McDonough. Of course, Liv Morgan did show up at ringside, so did a bunch of other people, which meant we got the obligatory Carlito attempting to cheat. Miz and Truth did look strong. Just as Truth was about to win, Liv hit the ropes, convinced Truth to give her a hug, and when it was the right time, she clotheslined him on the ropes. Finn Balor hit the coup de grace. 1, 2, 3, new World Tag Team Champions. And I loved how this story played out. I love how this thread was woven through the show and the ultimate payoff. I kind of wish Miz and R-Truth didn't have to lose the tag team titles for this to happen. Though I do remember myself thinking, okay, I hope they win at WrestleMania, even if they lose it a week or two later. And it's already been a few months, so you know what? They had a good run. Don't know what's going to happen with them next. But back to this story, I did suspect, I think other people did too, that Finn Balor and Liv Morgan were secretly working together. Ultimately, Balor wanted to get Priest out and him and Liv take the leadership. And Dawn really might be an innocent pawn in all of this. And I'm certain that that's what's happening after Raw. I don't know how soon it's going to happen, that it's going to be official. Maybe if Priest loses the World Heavyweight Championship, that will be the thing that gets him out. Finn and Liv will take over. I don't know. But it's just clear after this match that Liv Morgan really paid dividends for Finn Balor and JD McDonough, even though Dawn is the man she wants. But she wants to take everything from Rhea. And this is definitely the next stage on the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour. The final stage, I think, will be her getting Dawn. But the real final stage is Rhea coming back as a massive babyface and kicking her ass and taking the title back. But I don't think she's going to take the group back. I think we're going to have a new Judgment Day with Liv and Finn leading it. The second main thread started with Chad Gable. In particular, the recap of last week showing Chad Gable presumably shot in the head. This is what people thought. By the Wyatt 6. Of course, he wasn't. He was still very much alive. He made some comment about being bludgeoned, but it starts with him arriving at the arena, being in a dressing room, and then showing up and telling everyone that he was fine for his Money in the Bank triple threat contenders match with Braun Strowman and Big Bronson Reed. It was a good match, a lot of big men slapping man meat sort of thing. Of course, a lot of German suplexes. Judgment Day even interfered, tying it into the last story. But of course, it wasn't as much about the match as it was what came after it. Chad Gable won and qualified for Money in the Bank. As Gable was celebrating, the lights turned off. The fireflies came out. The ring filled with mist. Nikki Cross, although I don't think she's going by that now, and the Wyatt 6 crawled in. Gable got scared, fell down, escaped. Nikki brought a package up to Michael Cole. After the commercial break, he opened it, pulled out a VHS tape. He then explained to everyone what a VHS tape was, or to the quote-unquote kids, making me feel old, and he sent it off to the production truck to try and find a VCR. The thread then splits. In particular, Gable splits away from the Wyatt 6 thread, I don't think to return. He goes to the Alpha Academy locker room, knocks on the door. Otis refuses to accept him back after what he did. Maxine said they'll try, but then the door closes. And we get the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile. So yeah, I think I'm glad that I heard the rumor that they might have had an original plan to have him more part of the whole Wyatt 6 story. But I'm glad they're bringing him back to this story. And I honestly think that he's going to fully betray, maybe if they don't, even if they take him back to the Alpha Academy, and he's going to join up with Ivy Nile and the Creeds. That's going to be his new Alpha Academy, Perk Gable, as they're calling it. I like the bit of humanity they gave this situation, but I'm glad that they're back on track with the split. Again, when Otis finally properly doesn't just accept him back, actually attacks him and has a match with him, maybe at SummerSlam, maybe even after Gable wins Money in the Bank, that's going to be really good. I'm definitely looking forward to it. But then the thread continued, the Wyatt 6 part of the thread, that is the main part, and we get the VHS. And this was just incredible. It was brilliant. It was Uncle Howdy interviewing Bo Dallas. Bo Dallas, for those of you who don't know, is Bray Wyatt, aka the late Wyndham Rotunda's real-life brother. And he's also the guy who plays Uncle Howdy. So he was basically in character, in costume as Howdy, interviewing himself out of character, out of costume. And they touched on some very real things. Obviously, the death of his brother. Also, real criticisms that he's gotten, that he's somehow exploiting his brother's legacy. I think he's actually carrying it on. He's bringing as he said in this interview, he's playing tribute to his brother. He's continuing that legacy. He always wanted to be like his brother, and then he finally got to work with him, and then his brother passed away, and now he's actually making sure that nobody forgets Bray. Not that anyone would forget Bray Wyatt, but making sure nobody forgets him or Uncle Howdy, and basically him, his brother, and Bray Wyatt's the late Bray Wyatt's wife were the ones who came up with this whole plan, and WWE said, yeah, sure. I really love the way it's not so much, like mystical, supernatural. There's a spooky element to it, but they're showing that there are real people behind these masks, and they're also showing that they're actors playing these roles. It's fourth wall breaking. It's honest, and it brings a very real dimension to this sort of supernatural-esque kind of spooky stuff that they're doing. And I think that this version of the Wyatt 6 is something that's actually going to really work in the wrestling context, because that was always the thing, is like, how is this great cinema this like horror art house stuff that you're doing, this bizarre stuff, going to work properly in the wrestling context, not just on WWE TV. And I think this sort of bit of realism is helping do that. It's helping ground it. It's stepping outside the character while being in the character. It's honestly, it's some of the most impressive theater I've seen from WWE or anywhere. I'm really looking forward to see where this story goes next. A smaller, though also important thread started with Ludwig Kaiser versus Bron Breakker. As with Breakker versus Sheamus last week, it was a really good match. Then it ended in DQ, and then there was a really impressive spot. This time, Sheamus came in, caused the DQ, and then the spot, well, basically, Sheamus had Kaiser up. He was about to drop him on the announce table, but then Breakker speared Sheamus with Kaiser on his back. Looked like Kaiser might have been hurt a bit. I hope he's not. Then the thread continued backstage. Breakker complained to Adam Pearce how he didn't get a chance to prove he could beat Sheamus, and he didn't get a chance to prove he could beat Ludwig Kaiser, putting him in contention for the Intercontinental Championship. But then the other way to get the championship is Sami Zayn walked right in, offered him the match, Money in the Bank. I love the fact that Breakker has this match. I'm a little worried Sami might lose it, especially, well, not in Montreal. It's in Toronto. Now, it's not the Montreal and Toronto, for those Americans watching this, is kind of like how New York City and Chicago feel about each other. Sami Zayn's definitely over in Toronto. He's a Canadian, but he's also over everywhere. It's not like he's losing it in his hometown of Montreal, but still, he might lose it. He might not. Or maybe, who knows, Chad Gable might win Money in the Bank and interfere. I'm glad Bron Breakker's getting this match, and the fact that I don't know what's going to happen with it makes it very interesting. And even though it wasn't a full thread, it was definitely a nice little thread on this show. These weren't the only things that happened, though. Drew McIntyre actually kicked the show off, having proved on SmackDown that he didn't actually quit. He came out at the very start without entrance music to taunt CM Punk. He showed the bracelet with the name of Punk's dog and Punk's wife on it. The crowd started chanting for Larry. That's the dog. And of course, it was a fan-made bracelet, but now Drew has it with him. That's just basically setting up for more in the future. It was just a little reminder that Drew definitely did not quit. And Drew is going to be in a Money in the Bank contenders match. Also, Lyra Valkyria qualified for Money in the Bank. The main roster newcomer eked out a victory over Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane. And speaking of Kairi Sane, later in the show, Damage Control showed that they are at war now with Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, the new women's tag team champions. So that's interesting. This was a good match as well, too. There was a lot of stuff on this show, but of course, I focused on those three main threads, showing that Triple H can not only cook, the man can sew. Follow at Silo Wrestling on X, at SPS Reviews on Instagram and Facebook, and me at Jason C. McLean on X and Instagram. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and of course, ring that bell for notifications. I will be back with my assorted thoughts on SmackDown just after I watch it. The next Raw, so predictions for Money in the Bank. I'm going to try and put an opinion video in there. So for Silo Voice Studios in Montreal, I'm Jason C. McLean.